warm welcome to the CHRO Tech Talks series brought to you by hrtech.sg. This Tech Talk series is part of our effort to create a more data-driven and tech-savvy HR community in Singapore. Over the course of the series, I will be meeting a number of CHROs and HR leaders to identify the various business and talent challenges, key learnings, and best practices in their digital transformation. With HR teams of all sizes faced with unprecedented workforce and workplace challenges, we hope that this series will be useful in providing practical insights, none other than the CHROs of some of our world-leading organizations. Our guest today needs no introduction. Dr. Jaclyn Lee is the Chief Human Resources Officer of the Singapore University of Technology and Design. In this role, Jaclyn not only manages strategic human resources and capability development for university, but she's also a faculty member designing and teaching courses, human resources, organizational development, and analytics. She has over 25 years of experience in HR in various industries, and before joining SUTD, she was the Senior Vice President of Group Human Resources at a large organization. Jaclyn also has experience in senior roles in global companies such as General Motors and the NEC Corporation. She has a PhD in Business Information Systems, 2 master's degrees in Business and Human Resource Management, and a bachelor's degree in Psychology. So welcome, Jaclyn.
Good morning. Thank you for the introduction.
SUTD's recently your team is quite busy preparing for the go live sometime towards the end of this year and early next year. What can you share were some of the key drivers for SUTD to invest in the system?
You know, what happened was in the past, before this digital transformation, we had a multitude of different platforms, for all HR functions. Some were running on Oracle, some were running on PageUp, some were running on Oracle Fusion. So it was kind of like a lot of disparate, functions on, kind of, although most of them are automated. But what happened was the systems don't talk to one another. It's kind of difficult to integrate and make sense of data. So, and because they are sitting on different disparate systems, it's kind of divorced from one another. So we kind of realized that when we were trying to go into data analytics, it was quite tough because, we had to pull data from different systems to even make sense of, a small amount of data. So we kind of decided that since the systems were pretty old, they were, some of them have been in SUTD for the last 10 years, and the functions were, although we were upgrading all the time, it was really not state-of-the-art technology. So we sat down, we kind of thought through that we really needed a new cloud-based system that's integrated, and the systems integrated in a sense from onboarding all the way to offboarding. So this kind of integration actually will be able to help us to put everything onto a single platform, and also helps to improve employee experience. And eventually, once the systems are fully integrated, it is easier for us to pull data, put them into dashboards, and make it live and interactive, not just for HR, but also for our key stakeholders and decision makers. And lastly, we wanted to implement a new system because we wanted to make sure that it's scalable. The systems should be able to last us for the next 5 years. I dare not say 10 years at the rate things are moving so rapidly. So I think that was the whole motivation behind this major overhaul. Thank you.
I think many HR professionals will resonate with that. Certainly, I think our challenges is how do we piece the data that we already have together, and having different systems really makes the job very challenging. one of the difficulties that a lot of HR teams have is getting the resources and buy-in from management. And that's a key step in any digital transformation. What can you share in how you managed to make the business case, and what were your learnings and experience in this regard?
So definitely investing in such a large, fully integrated HR system needs a lot of resources. First thing you of course need to put in the monetary investments, and of course a lot of time and effort from the whole team, as well as other teams, because it's not a project that HR can handle alone. You really have to work with the IT department, work with the people in the data office to make sure that whatever data we're pushing meets data requirements. You have to work with external SIs who are commissioned to do the implementation, as well as the software provider. So when we were, trying to do this, it took me several years. It's not something that happens overnight. It took me several years to go to the senior management, to the top management, convince the president, as well as the key stakeholders within the organization, that this transformation was really necessary. Because firstly, the system was very old. And secondly, I think because SUTD is a technology university, and the fact that we were going also through a very big transformation within the university, as we finish our first 8 years of collaboration with MIT, we will go into the next phase where we were trying to focus on ourselves, technological innovations and transformation, not just for SUTD, but for the industry. As a university, we also have to train students, undergraduate all the way to postgraduate. So being a technology university, we have to make sure that whatever systems that we have reflect our mission and what we were trying to do. So I think when you put this kind of business case across to the leaders, you have to let them know that firstly, it must resonate with the business objective, and that the system eventually will be able to tackle inefficiencies, reduce cost. You also have to kind of prove that it does reduce cost in the long run, and uplift HR to the next level, our people experience. And eventually it should be able to reduce labor costs, because a lot of the processes can be automated. And also, I think one of the biggest selling point that I made case to the management, to the top management, was really that implementing such a system would not only solve all our business problem, but also talent issues, because talent is very key for us. So basically, in this case, we really went to the management to, show them that these were the key benefits. Reduction of cost, reduction of inefficiencies, improving the way we report data, having data analytics, people analytics, and ensuring that this will really help to tackle a majority of our talent issues and improving employer experience. I think that whole business case convinced our top management as well as the ministry to invest in this really major technological implementation for HR.
Okay. Yeah, so both you have to tackle the cost side as well as identify what the benefits would be.
Right.
Can you just share also some of the key metrics that your team has adopted, right? So that how will you be able to track the success of this implementation?
So as we are quite in the we have not really gone live. We will only be going live in January.
Right.
But I think some of the things in any successful project implementation, you always have to look at user adoption. You have to make sure that user adoption is high. It also should result in a high employee satisfaction and a positive candidate experience. When your candidates come to your platform to apply for a job, they must feel that it's an organization I want to be associated with. The experience on the digital platform is positive.
Yeah.
it also should reduce a lot of manual work processes. So I asked my payroll team, okay, after this implementation, how many percent of your time should be reduced? How many percent of inefficiencies? And I was quite encouraged to hear them say that with this implementation, it should reduce manual processes, in fact, by up to 30%. And in fact, you don't even need you can reduce one headcount just from the team through the automation. So that's from the payroll team, and also with the better integration, we hope to be able to make sense of data. So and we hope that basically that more and more of our employees will use the system to be able to look at self-service dashboards. They should be able to look at information pertaining to themselves. They should be able to go to the platform and do their HR transactions without any issues. It's just that when we go to the banking apps, the apps must have something that has good user interface, comfortable. It makes life easy for us. And nowadays, in this new world where everyone is so adept to social media, like TikTok, Instagram. So if the user experience on the HR tech platform is not as good as social media grade quality, then you're not going to have a good user experience. So when we were doing the UI and while planning for implementation, working through the project, we had to make sure that the whole employee experience is positive. So we did a lot of testing. We got a lot of our internal employees to to come into our user group to test the prototype, so that we go out, the adoption is higher. So we would be looking at some of these key metrics to ensure that the implementation is a success. And yes, yeah.
Yeah, but change is always difficult, right? In any organization. And so how did you manage to convince your HR team on making some of these changes, whether they are changes within the processes or changes in terms of how they interact with them within the team or with the users? What were some of the challenges in the change management?
So that's a good question, Maya. I think what happened was that I started this digital transformation efforts actually quite many years ago. So 5 or 6 years ago, when analytics was on the uptake, and you had Industry 4.0 and a lot of innovations happening. I have started to actually educate my team, get them to start thinking digital, get them to start thinking about efficiencies, not to do things the old method of doing. So I had to challenge them almost on a daily basis. I can tell you that there were initially a lot of resistance. People were, kind of not very open. Oh, why do we need to change? I've been doing this for the last 10 years, So, so basically within my team itself, I have to convince them that digital transformation is the way to go. So, spend many years, through meetings, just through getting them involved in projects to get the team to have a paradigm shift. I even went as far as getting a trainer to come in to kind of do a 3-hour talk on having paradigm shift, getting them to think out of the box. And so it was a very conscious effort. I think once I got them comfortable throughout the years to always think about how to do things better. So one of the things I did was I was a bit naughty. So whenever an employee come to my office or one of my team members come and give me a piece of paper to sign, I'll ask them, why am I signing this? Or using pen and paper, why isn't it digital? And it just catch them by surprise. So I remember my L&D team coming to me to sign off things. I said, I'm not signing this from next month, or I give you 3 months to think through. Why am I signing this? So the whole team went back out there, and today I don't sign a single piece of paper pertaining to training and development. It's all fully automated. So basically just, throw them questions, throw the baby back at them. And then it forced them to think, so they said, oh, okay, why am I not automating this? That's right. So I'm proud to say that today I have eliminated 95% of paperwork I don't have paper on my table anymore. Everything is digital. Okay, so of course that helps with the COVID, that accelerated digital transformation. So I started with my team. So once I started with my team, they were all on board, but they said, yeah, Jack, let's do this. So everyone was on board, and then we actually worked very, very hard to go through this project. First thing was, of course, convincing the internal stakeholders, convincing the top management, the ministry to invest in this, digital transformation. And second thing, of course, to make sure that we give a proper business case, right? So after that, we got the entire top management team, on board with us, and HR is on board. Then you start the digital transformation effort. I think with the internal stakeholders, we did something quite interesting. So, we wanted to get them excited about this effort. So we had a contest, named the HR System Contest. And we had overwhelming participation. The whole community started to get really excited. They gave interesting names. And finally, we found a winner, so the system is going to be called Hyper, Hyper, with a H in front and R behind Hyper, so it's HR, Hype we call it. So it's quite interesting. And because the name came from an employee, so it's kind of got, people got excited and they're looking forward to it. So we do a lot of these interesting things like contests, a lot of, just change management efforts, talking to the team, internal team, talking to the majority of the stakeholders, getting everyone on board. So I must say that right now we're at the stage, we're going live in January, and we're all quite excited. We have to make sure that everything is done correctly, the UI is correct, and ensure that there's as little teething problem as possible. But the community is all ready to accept this new transformation.
Yeah, I really like it. Hyper, the H and the R, and sandwiched, sandwiched in between, right? So, so I think the user experience is also quite important, because a lot of change also involves users needing to change their interaction with HR, change their behavior even, right? So that they can do much more themselves using the technology platform. So how did you ensure that the transition and the change to from a user perspective is seamless?
Okay, so as I shared, the system is set to go live, but I perhaps can share some of the steps from the beginning to the end, how the whole flow should look like. So to ensure any transition or change is seamless from user perspective, of course, at the beginning, planning and aligning is important. Making sure that we understand stakeholder, what the key stakeholders want, making sure that everyone within the organization is aligned to what we're looking for in this system and how the system should achieve our business objective. So once we're quite clear with the planning, we get everyone aligned, then you have to start to define and design. So defining and designing is really thinking about designing the best possible processes, the support, as well as the specs for the solution. So actually the specification requirement was one of the most painful parts of the whole project. When we were doing the specifications, we actually took almost a year to write the whole user specs. Every one of the key team leads had to sit down with the stakeholders, talk to people, and kind of interview them. What are you looking for in the new system? And of course, understanding the vulnerabilities of the current system, the strengths and weaknesses. So the configuration, the define and designing part was a very important part of the process. We took a year to make sure we do that correctly. And in fact, this part of the process requires you to be as meticulous as possible. Going to the current system, understanding the weaknesses, and kind of writing what you want in the new system. Of course, you can write something that is so beautiful but may not be achievable. But I tell my team, just put everything in, even if it's unrealistic, put in your desires, because then when you go to the vendors, they hear the standards are very high. we'll try and reach those standards, although I may not be able to fulfill 100% of those requirements. So once we were quite clear, right, then we went through the whole tender process, and then we, as a government institution, to ensure that it's transparent, the procurement is transparent. So we went out there, we had, it took 6 months for us to award, it was quite a thorough exercise to ensure that every vendor is fairly treated, to ensure that we look at everyone's proposal and presentations, a lot of engagement with the SIs. So once we were quite clear, we award to the SI, then it's really about configuring and testing. Configuration is really ensure that I can convert my functional specs into a technical setup. So there are many, many things that, because in today's cloud systems, I can share that we're going to SAP SuccessFactors. In today's cloud system, a lot of the configuration is really there. They don't want to do a lot of customization. But of course, every organization has different business needs. So we try and work with the SI to do as much as we can. But it's also important that we don't do too much changes, because then it defeats the purpose of a cloud-based system. Right. So the configuration part was a tricky process, but I'm quite happy to say that we've signed off the whole 2 or 3 major portions of the system with the final details to be set up. And of course, after configuration and testing is really train and communicate, helping people understand the benefits of the new system. And now we're in the midst of developing a change management plan, a comm strategy, so that when we go live in January, we're able to communicate, deploy the system out, sustain it. And I think it's important that as we deploy out, we must get user feedback, get everyone to go live, and make sure that support processes are in place, ensuring that we have the adequate FAQs to address issues, and ensure we have a feedback loop with the supplier, so that any issues we can go back to the supplier to relook at the whole configuration. And finally, making sure you have good training materials to go along with that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think very well thought through. A lot of organizations, smaller organizations in particular, may not have the luxury of going for some of these top tier platforms. So what would be your advice for those organizations? How do they also leverage technology for better HR and more efficient practices?
I think that you don't necessarily have to go with a large system. There are many, many small players out there. Well, we were doing the specific, tender bidding process. There were a lot of small companies that came in, smaller tech firms with actually good solutions and much more affordable solutions. So I believe that in the whole HR tech space, there are big players, there are mid-sized players, and there are smaller players. So if you are working for a smaller organization that can't afford, then go for the smaller systems. And today, many of the things can be done through RPA, robotic process automation. So Microsoft has a suite called Microsoft Power Apps. So those can be used. In fact, the HR people can be trained to develop bots, RPA bots. So if you can't afford a very large scale system, buy something that can, think about your most painful processes you need to automate. Maybe do those first, and the rest you can always use add-on technology. There's so much things out there, and many of the things can be DIY. So it's just being flexible, adaptable, and looking at whatever resources you have to do what you can within those resources. That's my advice.
Thank you. It's I think we don't really have to have one solution for all our challenges. And I'm sure, with so many solution providers out there, cloud-based, many organizations are going towards best of breed and integrating. I think more and more solutions can be integrated at the back end. So I think that's kind of the way to go. So thank you so much, Jaclyn, for sharing your journey. I wish you all the best in Hyper and making. I look forward to chatting with you again towards after go live to see how things have worked out for you, and wonderful sharing as well in terms of some of the processes you've used on the user side to help with some of the change management. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure, and I hope that our listeners can pick up some ideas from here.
Thank you very much.